this episode of the Weird Obscure World podcast.
I have been abducted.
Wait, what?
Their main forms they take are reptilian entities.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Another week.
Yes.
Another week of weird news.
Yes.
So,
Fun news.
I go first this week?
I go first.
You go first this week.
Okay.
All right.
So, we are going to Tennessee.
Welcome to Tennessee.
Yes. Howard Matthew Webb, a 31-year-old man who is accused of dipping his testicles
Howard.
into a customer's salsa.
I love salsa. Why would you tell this story? What? Okay, so he's accused. Did they just taste testicle?
It's like
This salsa
my salsa
tastes faintly like testicle. How do they know?
feta cheese in it.
Feta cheese. I like feta cheese. You've ruined both.
So he's a delivery driver for like a food service.
Oh, Lord.
And it was recorded by a woman saying, and she says, this is what you get when you give an 89-cent tip for a 30-minute drive. And it's recorded him,
So they must have prepaid and give a shitty tip.
prepaid or pay on delivery, however it goes. They gave a crappy tip prior to him getting there, so he dipped his testicles in it, and she recorded it.
Yeah, but what if they, now that makes me sad, because sometimes I'll just add like the extra cents, but then I've got another like $5 or $6 for when the delivery driver arrives.
Very true.
Like, do I need to warn them? Like, please don't dip your testicles. I've got $5 in my hands.
And here's the bad thing. So what if they did do that? What if they did tip him, an extra 10% or whatever when he got their cash, and then he just walks away and they're eating Fromunda.
Fromunda
salsa. He's charged with alteration of food.
Alteration?
Adulteration.
Oh.
Sorry. Adulteration of food, liquids, or pharmaceuticals. He can get 3 to 15 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000.
Well, outstanding. That's good, because he dipped his testicles.
I know. How disgusting is that? What if he left? They're eating the Fromunda salsa, and he's got the extra 10 in his pocket.
What a creep.
And then his testicles are sticky all night.
What a freaking creep.
I hope it was chilled salsa.
I hope it had lots of jalapenos in it. One time I made those jalapeno poppers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I didn't wear gloves because they're jalapenos. I mean, how
they
hot?
They weren't that hot.
They weren't that hot. But the whatever it is in those jalapenos.
The oil.
I am here to tell you, I tried everything to wash it off. I tried milk, I tried soap, I tried degreasing hand cleaner off of my husband's work truck. I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I hope...
And you rubbed your cheek, too.
Yes.
Your eye was puffy and watering.
It was ridiculous. And just from... And it's not like I did 100 jalapenos. I did like 20 jalapenos. I just cut them.
And I ate like 18 of them.
They were really good, but they weren't hot.
Delicious.
Yeah, I hope some of that oil remained. Howard, what is wrong with you?
We'll call him Senior Webb.
Listen, Mr. Webb, we're going to follow this story. I want to see you go to jail or something. Let your testicles be dipped in something else. Okay, mine's not as disgusting. It did, however, strike me as odd.
Mm-hmm.
So I first came across this story, and I was like, so this bridge player, so bridge, like the card game bridge.
Yeah, I don't know how to play it. I heard it's kind of like spades.
Well, I think our folks used to play it. They used to play bridge and rummy and a couple other games, card games.
Play rummy.
I don't know how to play any card games. Oh, Uno, I do know that. Kind of. I've recently learned that I've been playing it wrong my entire life. Anyway.
Well, you've been yelling those, or?
No, there's rules, apparently, to Uno.
Well, of course there's rules.
Nobody raids. So, at any rate, this guy, Gier Helgamo, I'm gonna slaughter his name.
Pierre Helgamo.
He looks German. World's #1 bridge player.
Uh-huh.
He's banned
Uh-huh.
for doping. What? So at first I was like, well,
Okay.
that's dumb. Everybody's banned for doping. And then I was like, wait a minute. This is bridge.
What's the...
So it gets worse. Oh, he's Norwegian. So Norwegian Gear is handed a 1-year ban.
Okay, what do they dope on? I gotta know what bridge players dope on.
Okay. He's given a 1-year ban after
Elevated levels of ginkgo biloba.
No, it's worse. He's banned after testing positive for synthetic testosterone and a female fertility drug.
Okay.
Synthetic testosterone and a female fertility drug.
Okay. Well, okay, I've got a lot of questions. One, why that mix?
Well, I don't think he was intentionally doping.
Medically, what's that mix for?
I don't know.
That couldn't be for much, could it?
Well, the female fertility drug raises your estrogen levels.
Could that be
and then
from his wife?
And then he's taking... Well, what is he doing with his wife?
I don't know.
But
maybe they mixed up pills.
But he's also got a testosterone drug.
Well, the testosterone could be just he went to a doctor. Doctor said you're low T.
Sure.
Give you a testosterone.
Why is that considered doping? Does that make you a much better bridge player?
Hey, you said it, not me.
The female fertility drug. Okay. Female fertility drug raises your estrogen levels.
Doesn't that cause cancer?
Well, estrogen in men causes like female attributes.
Yeah, but I've heard it also leads to elevated cancer.
Well, I think anytime you introduce a foreign chemical into male or female, the consequences are always carcinogenic effects. I mean, women taking fertility drugs.
Estrus, it's just
correct. So he will not be able to compete in events until November 2020.
What's his name again?
And he's had all of his titles, medals, and points for the 2018 World Bridge Series event revoked.
Okay, is that on ESPN 12?
Well, first of all, it's bridge, people. Okay, poker, there's high stakes. Like, do they? What's happening? What's happening at bridge?
They probably gamble like Metamucil and
denture cream.
Denture cream. Those shoes that have the ultra flat wide soles on.
The one unlucky guy lost his cane. I don't know.
With the 4 points.
So these are okay. So my initial after reading this.
First of all, doping. So he took too much.
Doping would.
Can he lay down his cards harder? Does it?
Well, the female fertility drug would make him like really emotional.
So he lays down his cards hard
and then cries. I don't know. But none of them have like a performance enhancing effect, I would think.
Not in bridge.
Well, and what kind of performance do you... Bridge should be like all mental. First of all, let's be clear. Testosterone screws up your mental capability. That's like anti-performance enhancing.
But it does increase you in other aspects of performance.
Sure. Just not mentally.
Yeah, how do they... Doping in bridge.
Yeah.
We need to see their bylaws.
So, on a side note, and this is a whole new world, these bridge players, straight up gangsta.
Well, yeah.
2015, the Daily Telegraph reported that 3.6% of bridge players were caught with prohibited substances in their body, along with 1.1% of billiard players and 10.6% of anglers. Listen.
Well, fishermen were
Yes.
caught with alcohol in their body?
No. Performance-enhancing doping techniques.
Performance-enhancing fishing?
Yes. It's a whole new world.
Oh, hold on.
We had no idea it existed.
What would be performance-enhancing fishing?
But he was, I mean,
Guy out there all roided up.
he keeps reeling it in and casting it out, and the crew's like, "Stop!"
Pulls the jaw right off.
He jumps in the water, swims around the boat.
Okay. So they're drug testing
Anglers,
professional fishermen now.
listen, and billiard players, and apparently
billiards,
bridge players. They are the bad boys of the card world.
Well, yeah, walk in leather.
Yes.
And today at the Bridge Nationals at Sun Valley Retirement Homes. Thank you for joining us on ESPN 12.
It's ridiculous. The whole story is
That
ridiculous.
reminds me of that. Remember that dodgeball movie? Where it was on ESPN 8? Ocho.
I unfortunately remember the dodgeball movie, and I have had the opportunity, having had HBO, to watch it on continuous repeat over the past years, days on end.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
It's so funny.
It's crass at best.
Oh,
So
performance in hand. Now, billiards I could see. Because, one, if you could take something to calm your nerves, okay.
Yeah.
And then steroids, you obviously hit the ball harder.
Which isn't always a good thing in
You come out
billiards.
looking like Quagmire after you're done finding the internet.
Yeah. Anyway, bridge. Who knew? Bridge and testicles. Sick. I can't even handle. I'm never ordering salsa again. Homemade salsa from here out.
That's probably pretty good. Well, you could probably trust like the ones made in New York City.
Oh, yes. For sure. No.
Because they come out of a big vat. I mean, then that just means that, the testicle would be so diluted out of that big vat.
I don't care.
You wouldn't even get, you'd have to try hard to get some testicle in there.
Some testicle juice or
Some
Fromunda. That's so gross.
All right. On to the story.
The main event.
So,
I don't know anything about this. So again, conversationally, the show is just a basic conversation where this week it is Jared's turn to kind of like surprise me with this amazing world we live in and the information he's dug up.
I suppose everyone's seen Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, right?
Well, those of us who have the History Channel do happen across it. I don't know, 5 times a day.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So the theory of extraterrestrials seeding humanity is a common theory. It's run around the gambit. It was on Prometheus and all that other stuff. Well, today we're going to be talking about the Anunnaki, which is a popularized story that some people actually believe is true.
So the Anunnaki.
Anunnaki.
Okay.
So we've got to go back in time a little bit to kind of lay a foundation for where this all came from. So we're going to go back. We're going to start out in 1882. Ignatius L. Donnelly.
Okay. 1882. Ignatius sounds Greek?
Well, he's Irish, but...
Okay.
Ignatius. There's a name.
It's a great name.
He is the Minnesota lieutenant governor.
In 1882?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a congressman.
What?
Probably not at the same time.
Oh, okay. I was like, how does that even work?
This guy's got a public
persona.
He wrote a book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. So to surmise that, Ignatius wrote about it, theorized that a near asteroidal hit with Earth caused the tides to change, and that's what collapsed Atlantis.
Okay.
Now, Ignatius is the son of Irish immigrants, and this will be a common theme.
Is he an astronomer, a physicist, a geologist in his spare time, aside from being lieutenant governor and a congressman?
No.
Okay.
He's
just to set it up.
Amateur scientist.
Okay.
But anyways, so he says a meteorite or an asteroid came close to Earth, caused tidal shifts, and made Atlantis go under the ocean. Some Atlanteans that escaped had, of course, red hair and blue eyes, and they now live on Ireland. Remember, Irish descent. So everyone's going to say
they're the descendants of the chosen.
They're the descendants of the original civilization.
Got it.
So he's kind of kicked off, popularized catastrophism. You've got Unitarians and catastrophists.
Oh, okay.
And Unitarians think that the earth has gone on unchanging for the most part. Again, this is coming from a person who is about 5th grade educated. For the most part, unchanged. And then catastrophists believe that catastrophes happen multiple times,
which causes
the changes and all that other stuff.
Okay.
So Ignatius writes that, and then he writes a second book a year later, Ragnarok, The Age of Fire and Gravel.
Hey, I've seen that movie. Same?
No.
Dang. Okay.
He postulates that the Great Flood, which destroyed Atlantis and started Noah on his 40-day adventure, caused the mammoths to become extinct, was caused between the encounter with the earth and the meteor.
You said Noah?
Yeah, Noah.
As in the ark?
Yes.
Okay, so he's...
The flood. These all of them talk about the flood, which the flood did happen.
Okay.
That we can track, as far as I know. That smarter people than me can track.
Okay.
The flood did happen. Whether there was a Noah or a Gilgamesh or any of that other stuff, we don't know.
Gilgamesh. He was on the Smurfs, right?
Different Gilgamesh. This is the
that was Gargamel. Huh? Never mind.
I think Gilgamesh is the oldest book around, the oldest story that's written down, I think. I'm not sure.
Very interesting. Okay, so this guy theorizes and creates 2 books.
Well, it's the same story, that a meteor... So he talks about Atlantis, and then he talks about Ragnarok. So he talks about a meteor comes close to the earth, causes the flood, which could be maybe the gravity from the meteor, I don't know, causes the flood, which, sinks Atlantis.
Okay.
And there were other humans, and the Atlanteans spread out and taught all the other humans, which is a thing through time. There's a Graham Hancock talks about that right now in his, Magicians of the Gods and that, which is another interesting story. And then you go, so that's the Catholic Irish side of it.
Got it.
Then in 1950...
So about 75 years later.
1950, Immanuel Velikovsky wrote Worlds in Collision, another catastrophist who compared ancient myths and dead civilizations. Sigmund Freud wrote like a thesis where... have you heard of Pharaoh Akhenaten?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what he did, right?
Yes.
Where he took their polytheistic religion and made it monotheistic. They only worshipped
a single god.
A single god.
Right.
And then he died shortly after, and his son was Tut, I believe.
Right.
Anyways, Akhenaten, when he died, his monotheism ran out of Egypt, his priests and all that stuff. And then, so Freud argued that right after they got ran out, that's when Judaism popped up. So Freud argued that Judaism is the living on of Akhenaten's monotheism.
So in the sense that the people that ran out then went somewhere else
went to Canaan
and told the story
Judaism
and
was born.
Okay, got it.
They went to Canaan and became Jewish when they adopted the Canaanite language and probably over a couple of generations.
Okay.
Well, Velikovsky, a Jew, didn't like that theory. So
the monotheism?
He didn't like the theory that Judaism was born
from
out of
Akhenaten. Okay.
Akhenaten's monotheism, because that takes away the divinity of Judaism, being born out of God talking directly to Abraham.
Got it.
Okay. So what he did is he sought to prove him wrong, and while searching through ancient papyrus, he found records of catastrophes written in ancient papyruses. So Velikovsky went and looked at ancient papyruses and found, while searching through them, he found records of catastrophe. Now,
so on ancient papyruses?
Yes.
Okay.
He found records of other floods, like floods of maybe the Nile Basin.
Okay.
Or maybe fires or locusts, things like that.
Okay.
So he saw those, so he's like, all right, I'm going to match these up to the Bible, prove Freud wrong, and prove actually the Torah correct or accurate. He wasn't able to match it to the Bible because the Bible has a timeline you can kind of track. He wasn't able to match those up. So he found valuable evidence of catastrophes, but he couldn't match them to what he wanted. But again, he was trying to prove his people correct.
Right. So kind of the old scientific arrow theory. That he's trying to prove his theory versus finding.
Yes, but he didn't solely focus on that. So he was open about what he did find. Where
Good.
a lot of people solely focused would have ignored what they found. So he wrote books. He wrote stories and books about what he found, and he's half revered, half regaled for what he found. The evidence he found, catastrophists look back to that and find it amazing because, he put in a lot of labor in these old papyruses and found that out. And then Eric von Daniken.
Eric von Daniken, that's the Judaist guy?
No, that's the Vladivosky.
Okay.
The guy who went to prove the Bible. So then you got Eric von Daniken in 1986.
Okay, but first finish the Vladivosky because some catastrophe guys.
Okay, well, Vladivosky, what he did is looking through these papyrus, he found a whole bunch of a historical record of catastrophes.
Okay.
So he couldn't tie them all to the Bible to match up with biblical written down catastrophes, but it did lay a groundwork for catastrophes, for catastrophism, which is, the theory that catastrophes cause the world changes.
Okay.
And then you go to Eric von Daniken. In 1968, I believe, he wrote a book, Chariot of the Gods, where he postulates that there were evidence through art and structures that aliens found, or through art and structures of aliens, that aliens found proto-humans and instructed or ruled or genetically modified them, looking at places like the pyramids. He postulates there's no way that ancient man could have built that. He theorizes that we couldn't build that now, which I argue we could. We just haven't had a need to build that or a desire to build structures like that because we can build more efficient than taking up that ground space where no one can really enter inside. But he postulates that had to have been done under the guidance or instruction of aliens. Or
someone that's of super intelligence.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got like the Nazca lines.
Okay.
The Nazca lines are those in Peru, those mile-long...
Miles and miles and miles,
designs, spiders and monkeys and birds and what have you, that you can't even, from the ground, you can't tell what they are. But from the air, you can. So he believes that those had to have been built by aliens or something that flew to look down and see them.
And that's the premise of the book, Chariot of the Gods.
Yes, that aliens have visited or had visited humans and instructed them and guided them. And then you've got, Machu Picchu with some of there's the way stones are built. And a lot of claims are made that stones are melted and fit into place and then rehardened, or harmonic levitation and things like that. It's all assuming that they always make the assumption that man, 2,000 years ago or whatever, couldn't build like that. I believe they could.
Well, they did.
They just don't give them credit.
Right.
But anyways, so from Eric von Daniken, you go to Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin is the guy who wrote the story of the Anunnaki. He, by training, is an economist. Has nothing to do with this. So Zecharia, he started deciphering the writings, the cuneiform writings of the Sumerians.
As a hobby? Like in his spare time in his basement?
He made plenty of money doing it.
He's an economist.
Well, yeah, that was his schooling. He just never pursued that.
Okay.
He went into a different thing. So there's another planet in our solar system called Nibiru.
Has it been found by astronomers?
This is the theory.
Oh, okay.
Nibiru. You may have heard it called Planet X.
I have heard of both Nibiru and Planet X. I haven't done the research, so I don't know if it was actually located in our star system.
No.
Oh.
Some call it Nemesis.
It is the invisible planet.
Well, some people think that it's a dead star.
But
it's postulated that it's out there by scientists even. Anyway,
sure, it could be.
Zecharia Sitchin writes that there's a planet Nibiru.
Okay.
That goes on a elliptical orbit that takes it far out. And every 3,500 years, it circles back around in, or every period of time, 21,000 years, whatever. Its orbit takes that long to circle the sun. So its orbit comes inside of Saturn, between Saturn and Mars, and it goes out, way out past the Kuiper Belt, past where Pluto is and whatever else, and then comes back in. So its orbit's really far and oblong. And on this planet lives a species called the Anunnaki, the people of Anu. Anu's their king, and then he has kids, Enki and Enlil, and on down the line. Anyways, so
he's taking a lot of narrative presumptions.
A lot of liberties.
Yes. Okay.
So, and he says he got this from the Sumerian text.
Really?
And you can go and read the book, The 12th Planet, to get the breakdown from him, from me. You're going to get a layman's version of a guy who is barely educated enough to walk. So anyway, this planet, because
is this writing The 12th Planet listed as fiction?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, all right. Yes. Just making sure.
He would like it not to be.
I know, I'm sure, but...
So anyway, on Nibiru, the Anunnaki, through part their orbit and part the way they've used up their planet is having a hard time.
Okay.
So they come back into the solar system, and there's some kind of impact with a planet called Tiamat. Now, there's a whole backstory to how the planets were made. There's Tiamat and Marduk were two planets that struck each other, and part of it made Earth, part of it made Nibiru, and the particles made the asteroid belt between us and Mars.
Got it.
So anyway,
clear as mud.
Yeah, me too. And so anyway, then Nibiru is on its elliptical orbit and comes back into the interior of the solar system. They send out spaceships looking for supplies, whatever else. They need gold.
The Anunnaki do.
The Anunnaki.
So gold is for?
What they do is they make it tiny particles and coat their atmosphere with it to retain heat or whatever.
Okay.
So then the Anunnaki find Earth. So they send out a party to Earth to mine gold. So boom, they land on Earth. They start mining gold. The Anunnaki that are there kind of used like slave labor inside the mines. So they uprise. So
they use human slave labor?
No, they use Anunnaki slave labor.
So they bring slaves?
There are no humans. There's proto-humans.
Okay.
They're like Cro-Magnon man or caveman. Or
they arrive and they're like, crap, this is a crappy planet. There's nobody for us to enslave.
Well, they're happy about it, but they need this gold. So the Anunnaki originally start working on it. They kind of uprise. They don't like what they're doing, so they uprise because it starts out probably you need to do this, and then they get there and it's just terrible day and night work. So anyway, so they uprise. So Anu's sons, Enki and Enlil, come up with the idea of mixing their genes with the proto-humans genes and making a worker species.
So they don't have to do the work.
So that they don't have the uprises from the Anunnaki. So they mix them and they take this simian and turn it into what now is humans. The original batch of humans didn't have sex organs.
What?
And they genetically made this working
without sex organs?
Android. Yeah.
Well, that's not smart.
No, but they didn't want them to breed and get their own ideas.
Oh.
So that causes another thing. You lose a worker when a baby's born.
Do you think that's what's happening with this I'm not sure what gender I am now stuff?
It's a good question. I think that's just we gave out
too many options.
Okay, we'll get onto that subject in a minute. Anyway,
sorry to take.
So they make these humans, and you've got Enki and Enlil, the sons of Anu.
Okay.
Enki is the lord of the sky in Sumerian godhood, and Enlil's the lord of the sea. But he made them sons of Anu, which is the god of all in Sumerian. And then, so Enki and Enlil breed these humans that couldn't mate. And then Enlil, kind of on the side, pet project, breeded humans that could mate. And at first Enki was mad and Anu was mad, but then they thought, whatever, let it happen. So humans start mating and populating. They get more workers in the long run. But then Anunnaki see that the human women are beautiful and start breeding with them. much like the Nephilim from the Bible. You know what Nephilim are?
Uh-huh.
Half angel, half human.
Uh-huh.
They make that. So they make these half Anunnaki, half human.
So the original non-gender species are not half Anunnaki, half human.
They are.
Okay, so wouldn't it have just been easier
half,
to just mate with them?
They're half Anunnaki, half proto-human, which made human.
Okay, got it. All right.
So prior to that, they were like cavemen or Neanderthals,
Got it.
something like that.
Which are not.
Cro-Magnon or Homo erectus.
Which I'm sure their women were not.
But once they made them beautiful and got the beards to go away, the Anunnaki were like, hey, baby.
Hey,
and then they
beard.
slid in. So then they bred. So anyways, that made Anu distressed. And then the story. And then the story splits.
So the god's fine with making proto-human / Anunnaki workers, but he's not okay with Anunnaki breeding with these
breeding
humans.
And making demigods.
Oh, I see where you're going.
See where that goes in that theory.
But are all Anunnaki gods?
To the humans they were.
Okay. So then
they were gods on a pyramid level, pyramid scheme of gods. You join Amway, you're the guy that stands in the parking lot.
You're a god.
But there's a guy, you're not a god, you're the worker. But there's a guy that's a god that you call. But that god calls a bigger god and then calls a bigger. It's a pyramid scheme of gods.
Okay, got it.
Just like all other.
Amway, Anunnaki, it's all the same.
Yeah, Anunnaki way. Amway, Naki, whatever.
Amway-Naki.
But anyway, so he's kind of distressed with that. Then the story splits. This is where the story postulates. So this book is written like, it's not written like a narrative story, like first person in that, for the most part. It's written kind of like the Bible would be written.
What?
This is what we saw. This is what happened. Not, this is how I felt.
So this guy writes it like this.
Yes.
Do you think he does it for credence, to give it some legitimacy?
Honestly, I think he kind of believes it.
Oh.
I think when he saw the cuneiform and deciphered it his own way, and everyone's picked it apart. I mean, anyone who's actually reads Sumerian cuneiform has picked it apart and says, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. Yeah, it says, Anu, but it doesn't say that they...
What if Anu was their pet?
Anu was it was one of their gods. It was like their top god, apparently. Not that I'm a professional in Sumerian religions.
Okay.
But anyway, so then they either know a flood is coming,
the Anunnaki,
or they cause the flood. But they take one human that they really like, that worships them really good, and they instruct him how to build a craft to survive the flood.
Noah.
So it's like that.
It's tied in.
So it ties into the Bible nicely, and a lot of that with the giants. Goliath was a Nephilim, 6-fingered giant. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
I'm trying to follow you.
Yeah. So in the story of David and Goliath was a Nephilim.
Which is an angel that has half angel, half
breed.
Yes. Well, okay. So this guy writes this book and ties it into the creation story.
Yes. But the creation story appears everywhere. Like the Epic of Gilgamesh has a creation story.
I think it's kind of like the question of all time. Like, where did we come from?
The Epic of Gilgamesh almost matches the story of Noah's Ark. There's a lot to it that matches the building of the boat, the quest, the talking to gods, and then you've got Eric von Daniken talks about, the talking of gods is obviously the gods left him a radio.
Duh.
But
that's the way I would have gone. It leaves out all of the other liberties I'd have to take in explaining it.
Do I believe this stuff? No. Do I find it interesting? Honestly, it'd be great if it was true, because it'd be just a really interesting story, and it would fill that evolutionary hole that religions have a hard time with.
So I have so many issues with the writing of the story. Especially if you want us to, believe that it's anything other than, just wild fiction. How does he know this information? I mean, he gleans all of this from the Sumerian writings.
Oh yeah, there's
the orbit of Nibiru, the collision of the two that breaks apart and forms Earth.
There's some really interesting pictures online. Now, if you look up Sumerian artwork that Zechariah Sitchin reads off of, they've got one picture.
I mean, what if it was just like the Picasso of Sumeria? Like his stuff, you'd look at it and go, okay, historically, people's eyeballs used to be on their chin, and their faces were distorted and demented. I mean, what if people back then took liberties in their writings the way that this guy has?
Very true. Very good question.
I mean, to take it as like a historical version of events, I mean, that's not fair, because what are we leaving the next generations years and years and years down that find Picasso? What if we're decimated?
I can't wait to see him. Come here and have a look at this.
What if we're decimated and the only thing left behind are these creepy Picasso paintings? And then all of our writings have to come from that.
True. Now, part of what he talks about, and you see this?
Okay.
Now,
we'll put these online for everyone to see.
Supposedly, these planets show the actual size of our planet.
Oh, I see. So the decorative additions to behind the Sumerian carvings.
And this is supposed to be Anu, Enki, and Enlil.
See, you're taking major liberties there. Because
he's taking major liberties there.
Yeah. So to assume all of that from, I mean, really, what if the person who created that just
stumbled into some mushrooms,
pulled it out of his butt, and was like, okay, I'm going to create a design in the background that's eye-catching, and he creates a star. And then later people are like, the star must be the planet. I mean, you just can't infer all of that from art. Because art it's all about the beholder.
Hey, I believe that the Anunnaki came and made us. I'm starting a religion. I believe there's a religion of it.
Stop it. There's already a religion. Yeah, someone read this book and was like, this must be true.
There's also a map we'll put on there of the orbit of Nibiru.
Yes. Again. Yeah, I think that a lot of theories that are just so far-fetched just arise from mad people who are just stark raving mad.
Yeah.
Or maybe they get to writing and they just really get into it, and it takes on a life of its own that they can no longer
how do you
harness or
explain this
control.
Picture where the king is a giant and the people are tiny?
Well, perhaps the king was like, make me big. And so the artist was like, you got it, man.
Or how about the picture where the little proto-human's sitting on the lap of the king?
I'm just saying, it could be interpreted any way. It's an interesting story, though. I wasn't aware that we were half-breeds of aliens. Well, but then again, that would have been so diluted by now.
You know, I actually dated a girl who believed that's where humans came from, that aliens bred with monkeys, her words, and made humans.
What? Like you dated her long term, or like you went on a date and was like, check please?
Well, as long term as I date.
Well, Jared, I don't know how you have a conversation.
3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, that's way too long to have a conversation about monkeys and aliens.
But yeah, so the ancient aliens is an interesting story. Now, on to, okay, right now.
Bringing it back around. You didn't forget.
I did not forget. This is my theory. Okay, we have a conflagration of a couple of things. Right now, it has been instructed in education and through politics that victimhood is a virtue. That if you're a victim, you're somehow, not just you should be helped, but you're somehow better than others. And where that comes from, I'm not sure. A lot of it could have been that, World War II, we fought the Nazis, who were horrible people, So maybe bad people are bad and victims are automatically good. I don't know. But victimhood is taught as a culture. And then you've got helicopter motherhood that came out of the times of the Satanic Panic, where children weren't allowed to go out and learn to self-regulate in play and to learn how to deal with issues by themselves. They always had a parent there to
Oversee.
play referee. So they didn't learn how to negotiate through those formative younger years, you know. At 5 years old, you should be learning to negotiate this. But if mother's there doing every negotiation for you, you don't learn how to do that. You learn just to look at your mom for everything.
Well, and mother, not, I mean, I think that could apply to anyone that oversees children.
I know I say
not
mother.
just mothers.
I know I say mother,
teachers,
but mothering is a phrase. So whether it's the father doing it, the teacher, the daycare worker, and then also there has been since the 70s, women have entered the workforce more. So children have been left under the care of strangers a lot more, which caused them, I think, some confusion. Where it used to be a parent was home with them, and it was usually, if not one-on-one, but maybe at the most 1-on-5. When you take a child to daycare, it's 1-on-12 or 1-on-8, you know?
Sure.
And it changes the numbers. And then this is also not a person that's totally vested in you like a parent would be. Not that all parents are perfect, but
sure.
A parent generally has more investment in the child's welfare than a daycare worker, where so a lot of changes happen. So there's been a loss of negotiation, learning skills in those formative years. There's been this craze with everyone gets a trophy and everyone's doing great. And, no matter how you did or what you did, you earn accolades for that. And so all these growing things, I think they've formulated to bite us in the ass.
Do you know how many genders there are now?
It depends on what state or nation you're in.
71 official. I don't even know what gender I am anymore.
Oh, I'm pretty clear on what gender I am.
Reading through this, I mean, cisgender refers to anybody who identifies with the same biological gender they were born with. Tentatively, it could be seen as the opposite of transgender, demigender, gender fluid.
What's demigender?
All right, demigender, a catch-all term for all identities that only have a partial connection to a certain gender. So you're demi-boy and demi-girl.
So you're almost a gender?
You could be
kind
nearing gender specific.
I'm gender-ish.
Gender neutral is a synonym for agender. So somebody who doesn't identify as a gender. Identify as a gender. I actually heard of somebody who wanted to be called they.
Okay.
To be referred to as they and not he or she.
Yeah, you hear that all the time.
It's ridiculous.
I want to be referred to in the past tense.
They'd. So I think you're right.
What about furry genders?
I don't. I'm telling you.
Or there's gender kin.
There's 71 to choose from, which, as far as I'm concerned, is ridiculous. But I think you're right. I think that the rise of that comes from a shift in society and a shift in the way we manage discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And now I'm going to try and figure out what gender I am.
Maybe rising out of this, we're going to see where there will no longer be, there'll still be genders. I'm sorry, you can't do away with genders.
Right.
You just can't. You can be a man that identifies as a woman.
But you're still
and want to be called, well, even if you go and become a woman, then you're a woman. But for the continuation of the human race, listen close, you snowflakes, there has to be breeding men and women at this time. Now, if you want to break out of that, you need to go and figure out all the science for cloning or test tubing or whatever. But until that time,
And let's remind you, that's going to require a lot
you can
of...
still have two daddies, but they're still man and woman making babies.
And in order to change that, it's going to require a lot of trial and error, which means failure.
The Greys are abducting us because they took away genders and they want to get that back.
I hadn't thought
Remember
of
we talked about that?
that. So
we're en route to the Greys because of snowflakes.
What if the Greys are us in a future time space?
Like I'm saying, the
Greys have messed up their genetic code.
The snowflakes took over.
Oh, great.
And they chopped off all the willies and the breastises, and now they're trying to get it back. The Greys are a cautionary tale for snowflakes.
We should Greys a cautionary tale
For snowflakes.
For snowflakes coming to a bookstore near you. Barnes and Noble.
That's the book we write to get into MUFON.
Greys, the cautionary tale. They used to be us.
They used to be us.
They went and screwed up their...
They cut off all their stuff and became
Greys.
Whiny and cried about somebody not appreciating them to the level that they feel that they deserve. And then, because of that, they all cried at each other. No, I'm been abused more. No, my life's harder. Then they nuked themselves, destroyed their planet, chopped off their hominas.
And now they have to come and abduct us in our sleep.
And then some Grey, further down the timeline, invented a time machine. We'll call this Grey Baron. Baron invents a time machine.
Baron the Grey.
Baron the Grey comes back in time, and they're here. They can't talk anymore because of all their whining. They cut out their vocal cords because they got tired of hearing each other whine. Because that became their Olympics.
Yes.
And then people were doping to whine more, tying it back to doping.
Doping.
And first they had anti-doping laws.
What if that guy's taking both testosterone and female?
Sweet Jeebus, he's patient zero.
Patient zero. The beginning. We found him. He plays bridge.
But note to people out there, victimhood is not a virtue.
No.
Surviving and rising above a thing that would make you a victim is a virtue. That shows real strength. You survive, you rise above it, you become stronger. The bird breaking out of its shell, whatever you want to say it. But victimhood's not a virtue, and don't force that on people. Don't force people to respect you because somebody that's not them supposedly abused you.
Yeah.
You've got to gather strength within yourself. Gain some intestinal fortitude.
Yes. And on a side note, I think that due to this victimhood, being angry has become a national pastime.
Oh, gosh.
Like, we've got to stop. You're just like...
I'll tell you right now, I would not go to a bigger city during any kind of festival right now.
No.
I wouldn't.
You'd just be destroyed.
We're calm here. We don't have people rioting in the streets saying, my communism or you're so mean and I'm going to break this store window. We don't have any of that here.
Knock on wood. Yes. And to end it on a high note, I'm glad I'm half Anunnaki. Or by now, quite deluded.
Well, almost gray.
I'm nearly gray, although I'm still female.
But not for long.
Have a great...
Anyway, sorry about the...
and off we go.
Any ramblings and interruptions we had. But that's the story of the Anunnaki from my uneducated point of view.
Awesome. Thanks.
Read the book, though. It's a fun book.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Yes.
Have a great week.
All right.